first, I think Trump is thin-skinned, and other leaders have found out don't enter a war of words with Trump because you'll probably lose. Secondly, I think Trump signaling his frustration with lack of progress on the quote peace unquote since he came into office. Steve Witkoff is there today talking to the Russians ahead of the deadline running out on the 8th of August. And I think third, as I said, it's just to remind Russia that America spends more on nuclear weapons than the whole of the Russian defense budget, and don't enter into a tit-for-tat nuclear escalation with the Americans.
Let's talk about Donald Trump's mobilisation of 2 nuclear submarines, marking a serious escalation in at least his war of words with the former Russian president and key Putin ally Dmitry Medvedev. The two have been trading a series of personal attacks on social media after Trump issued Russia a deadline of August the 8th to agree a ceasefire. Medvedev called Trump's ultimatum theatrical and said Russia didn't care about it. Speaking to journalists before boarding his helicopter, Trump explained why he deployed the subs.
We just have to be careful. And a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
John Foreman is with us now. He is a former British defence attache to Kyiv and Moscow. John, good morning.
Hello, Peter.
What do you make of this move? Is this a cause for concern for you?
Yeah, actually, I'm not concerned whatsoever, actually. I think...
not at all?
Not at all. I think what Trump's doing is reminding the Russians that words have consequences, he's saying that America has credible nuclear weapons, it's capable submarines and missiles at sea, and it's communicating its nuclear posture to the Russians and reminding the Russians to dial down their rhetoric.
So in terms of this move by Trump, the unprecedented nature of talking about deploying those subs, that in itself, I suppose, is worthy of comment. But from your perspective, you don't think we're closer to any form of confrontation here?
No, because I think you use the word mobilization. The fact is that America has 4 ballistic missile submarines at sea at any one time. Each of those submarines has 20 missiles. Each of those missiles has 4 warheads. And they are targeted against potential adversaries, including Russia and China and Iran, I would say. And America has maintained that posture for decades, as has the UK. I noted Trump's words were appropriate regions. These submarines are already at sea. They can already reach Russia. So I don't see, as you called it, a mobilization. And I think the second thing is nuclear signaling, or signaling your capability to your adversary, is part of deterrence theory. We've had B-52s fly over Europe all the time, nuclear-capable B-52s. We have American submarines surfaced off Norway last year to remind Russia that the capability was there. And even we have nuclear exercises on nuclear forces within NATO every year. So I think this is part and parcel of the process, just to remind the Kremlin that they should dial back or rein in Mr. Medvedev, and nobody wants a nuclear escalation.
Well, speaking of Medvedev, certainly Trump is criticised a lot for his rhetoric. Certainly his online postings and so on are much criticised. But Medvedev has done this sort of thing, this kind of language, on many occasions. I wonder, given your expertise of what's going on in the region, why now in regard to Trump responding, do you think? Or is this simply he saw something, didn't like it, and responded because he's just an unpredictable person who says what he thinks?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, both Medvedev and indeed Putin like to talk about the nuclear weapons, but Medvedev is not a key figure within the system. He's a marginalised figure, he's a figure of fun by the Russian people. He's also despised by the key players inside the power positions in Moscow. But unfortunately, Trump's entered his world words. I don't think it was necessary for Trump to rise to the bait, but I think there are 3 reasons. I mean, first, I think Trump is thin-skinned, and other leaders have found out don't enter a war of words with Trump because you'll probably lose. Secondly, I think Trump signaling his frustration with lack of progress on the quote peace unquote since he came into office. Steve Witkoff is there today talking to the Russians ahead of the deadline running out on the 8th of August. And I think third, as I said, it's just to remind Russia that America spends more on nuclear weapons than the whole of the Russian defense budget, and don't enter into a tit-for-tat nuclear escalation with the Americans.
We've got another deadline, which is Friday. It's not going to be met, is it, John?
Well, I think if you look at what Putin was saying yesterday on a meeting with Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus, Putin is not returning. He has stuck to his position since last June. The Russians have not entered into dialogue seriously with the Ukrainians or the Americans about finding peace. And I think we're going to find out whether Trump is serious on Friday, whether Trump has tried the approach of using carrots, and now he's has threatened the use of sticks. We'll have to see how serious those sticks are. And I imagine that Witkoff, if he's in the Kremlin meeting with the key players, is going to be setting out exactly what the Americans are going to be do. But I think that we have seen a trend of Trump towards frustration, disappointment, and he even used the word disgust about bombings of Ukrainian cities. So it struck me that his position has hardened, and the Russians have mucked him around, and may now find out.
In terms of the stick that you're talking about there, that is certainly something that is being used very severely by the Russians. 31 people dead in Kyiv in the last 24 hours or so. What do you make of this military action, the fact that it's continuing and in some ways escalating? What's your assessment of that, John?
Well, that's been going on since January.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, around Easter,
Oh, John, are you still there? I think we've lost John Foreman, but certainly he gave us his very sober analysis there. He says he doesn't see it as a cause for panic in regard to this mobilisation of 2 nuclear submarines. So that was John Foreman there, former British defence attache to Kyiv and Moscow. We're going to continue talking about this story, the main story on the front page of the Times, Trump and nuclear sub-deployment against Putin, front page of the Times today, and we'll continue to talk about it throughout the programme here on Times Radio Breakfast.
The nuclear submarines.
Oh yeah, well, we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people. And then after the election, they corrected it by 800 or 900.
More information on the nuclear stuff. And what did Medvedev say to you that made you really mad?
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.